So I sued a whole bunch of, let me start again. Folks, I sued a large bag of federal judges in the United States District Court in Idaho. Well, I don't mean this word. I sued a group of judges, and the court in which I sued this group of judges was and is the United States District Court in Idaho. And I sued many New York State agencies for violating your rights. You have a right to be protected from bad judges, so I sued the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct because the Constitution of the state of New York guarantees you your protection against bad judges, and they don't do it. I sued the New York State Commission on Public Service, or Public Service Commission, or Public Disservice Commission, Flynn and his gang of bandits, for not protecting us against cablevision on public access. I sued the Environmental Protection Agency for not protecting you and me from the jets that maliciously go through the sky and maliciously exude poisons like ethylene dibromide and make these chemtrails in the sky that stay up there and then that spread and spread until you no longer have a blue sky. What you have is poisons drifting down to the earth that you have to inhale. Don't breathe. I sued several cablevision violators of public access: Diane Bennett, Jennifer Oyala, Christine Savarino, Robert Sadley, Robert Callaghy, their liar for hire, Sadley, Stevens, Burke, and Burke. I sued Stephen Toman, Town Justice, Phillipstown, County of Putnam, State of New York. I sued a federal judge in Binghamton, New York, for violating the public access rights of Bill Houston and et sequitur, violating my public access rights. I sued the circuit judges who Bill Houston took his cause to the Second Circuit to get justice, and what did he get? Chicanery. Sandra Sotomayor, Regina Raji, and C.J. Hall, Second Circuit judges in Manhattan. Let me just double check here and see if I've told them all to me. Anyway, so they've all made a motion to dismiss, and they have never addressed the merits. Not once did they mention any of the bad things that these people did. The New York State defendants are out. They're in hopeless default. I sued Reynolds, James Reynolds, Laurie Pulver, Stuart Smith, Rob Johnson, Mid-Hudson Cablevision, and Mid-Hudson Media. It has nothing to do with Long Island Cablevision. I sued Deborah Eacott. She caused the Taman lawsuit by breaking her contract with Glendora in Peekskill to be her signer. Oh, I sued William Savino, the liar for hire for Cablevision in Long Island, against Kelly versus Cablevision, Kelly Burness versus Cablevision. I sued Diane Bennett and Alyssa Amato for dropping a chat with Glendora from 10 p.m. to 4 p.m., cutting her audience by 4/5. I sued the state of New York, its Supreme Court, its Appellate Division, First Department, and its Court of Appeals in care of Judith Kaye, the Chief Judge of the state of New York, for not letting us have cameras in the courtroom. These are your courtrooms. These courtrooms do not belong to the insiders. These are your courtrooms. And you have a right, a First Amendment right, to know what's going on in your courtrooms. So any camera should be able to come into your courtroom, as long as it's not intrusive, and the cameras today are not. I sued Bodine, the Chief Judge of the First Circuit in Boston, for rendering meaningless our right to filed judicial misconduct complaints and judicial disability complaints. That's Title 28, the United States Code 351. Okay, that covers them all. All right. So they made a motion to dismiss. I made a cross motion to deny and to grant my relief. They made a reply to my cross motion, and then I made a surreply to their reply. I hope this is the end of the motion practice. And I was reading you something when the battery ran out. Well, let's pick up anywhere. The same applies to Taman Julian, but at least this time Taman Julian succeeded in getting their paper to Glendora. The first one they didn't even get to me. Quayne Smith was right in serving by regular mail. Callaghy, Sawrock, Satterley are in default in this court beyond repair. They also just lapsed into default in the Supreme Court, State of New York. They owe Glendora $23,000. That's on Glendora versus Amato and Bennett. They had to pay White Plains City Court $5,000 on Glendora versus Cecilia, Masterilli. All of you people should disperse with, I'm talking to these crooks, in this case in Idaho, all of you people should disperse with these meaningless certificates of service. Glendora has asked Grisham 3 times who Janice whatever her name is. And she doesn't give her title and she doesn't print her name, and I can't read her writing. And you should declare under penalty of perjury when you serve Glendora that you are telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, instead of these meaningless certificate of service, which are skeletal. And Glendora is incredulous. She does not believe you. Julian did not even sign his Stephen Taman. You should not pay Julian. Taman, you should not pay Julian. He has not represented you well at all. Glendora is your witness. It is no wonder he did not want you to see the legal papers, copies of which I sent to Taman, and his lawyer, Julian, asked me not to send Taman these papers, because Taman didn't want Julian to know what such a bad job Julian was doing. You do not serve all parties, for instance, Spitzer and Gardy, Judith Kay, New York State Public Service Commission, New York Commission on Judicial Conduct, James Reynolds, defendants. Didn't anybody tell you that you have to serve all parties? That happens to be the law. And we are on page 17. On this count alone, Glendora could unamphibiously have your papers stricken. They are fatally defective. And no way can Grisham get by with 30 days for a reply to Glendora's cross. You get 15 days, Grisham. You don't get 30. And if you can't read this and understand it, then I'll read it to you on the internet. 15 days is the unconditional limit, and Glendora serves her cross motion on April Fool's Day. Grisham does not get out a reply until May the 6th, 2006. What's that, folks? Like 36 days later? This is not prompt, on the watch, vigilant, lively, and brisk the way a U.S. attorney should be. And paragraph 14 is reserved, and now we're up to Sigma. Does anybody remember these? And now I go back to the complaint, which they have totally ignored. All defendants were served November 26, 2005, pursuant to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 4D. See pages 101 through 105 of the complaint. Has anybody dealt with Glendora's wherefore, therefore, and ergo in the complaint? Which says, Plaintiff Glendora demands $180 million in compensatory and punitive damages. the costs of this action, that this court order defendants to cease and desist their lawbreaking as to these action matters, together with any further relief just and proper, and that's dated on November 1st, 2005 when I wrote it, not when I served it. It wasn't served until Thanksgiving week. And November 1st, 2005, when I finished writing this, was All Saints' Day. State of New York, yours in truth, and amor patriae, Glendora, without prejudice, Uniform Commercial Code, Article 1, 207. Glendora on 52 TV stations, 520 municipalities. And that's the limit. I can't do any more than that. I have found that out. I can't do it as to the hours, and I can't do it as to the energy it takes, and I can't do it as to the money it takes. And this complaint that I'm reading you the SIR reply to is Opus 1301. That's 1,300 legal papers. I told you, Spider, I don't want any spiders on my body. But I wish you well. It took 36 hours and $55.85. But this SIR reply took, well, it's taken 25. Estimated internet number is 4,230, Omnibus 27 lawsuit. This is the service by Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 4D. You ask the defendant to waive the cost of serving a summons, and tell him that he has a civic duty to do so. And then if he will do so, he gets another 30 days to answer the complaint. In other words, 60 in all. And every defendant was given that, and you enclose a self-addressed stamped envelope so that they can do this at no cost to them. And here's the civil cover sheet saying the laws that they broke. Oh, there's numerous laws. Title 47 U.S. Code, Section 521 at SEC, 18 U.S. Code 1131, 18 U.S. Code 1961, 42 U.S. Code 1983 and 1985, 18 U.S. Code Sections 2, 341, 4012, 1505, 1001, and so forth. And this comes from the original complaint. Here's a $250 filing fee. Do not lose it, the way the federal court did in Nebraska, the federal court in North Carolina, and the federal court in Rhode Island. And here is this. Stop. Judge self-interest that blocks the populace from getting justice. We're up to page 35, or 25, excuse me. And here is the Glendora cross motion to deny the motion to dismiss and to grant all the relief in her complaint and to award her judgment by default against all defendants, together with sanctions on them and on their alleged representatives. This is Glendora's cross motion. I'll tell you again, they make a motion to dismiss. I make a cross motion to deny it and to grant my relief from the original complaint. They make a reply. This is my SIR reply. Did not the Ninth Circuit tell Little Brother Idaho District Court that a Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 12, equates to a Rule 56 Federal Rules of Civil Procedure? And isn't the defendant required to file with its motion a statement of undisputed material fact? Well, Grisham didn't do that. Taman didn't do that. Quayne Smith didn't do that. They're required by the Ninth Circuit to send the pro se plaintiff the statement that a Rule 12 motion to dismiss will be treated the same as a Rule 56 motion for summary judgment. Well, Grisham did not do that, nor did Quayne Smith. So don't we have here two flops? Don't we have here two more nullities? Doubtful uncertain, obscure, indistinct, two senses, capable of being taken in two senses, equivocal, dubious, mistakable, indeterminate, or what else you want elect to call it. Glendora says yes. Neither paper by Grisham nor by Quayne Smith can be processed, therefore, by the court. They didn't include that. Upsilon. As she did with Julian Toman, Glendora adds to her cupboard a motion to this court for summary judgment in her favor, and she adds it again. Defendants Bodine through Rhode Island, intake clerk who lost the $250 filing fee, and against Savino, Rifkin, Radler, who colluded with Spat, Amato, Jeffrey Amato, against Cablevision, operating a lottery in New York State. And that's a Class E felony. And here we have Grisham's motion to dismiss, and he lists all the federal defendants. And he says, by and through Robert C. Grisham, and Glendora says, you prove it. Number one, he hasn't proven that the defendants themselves authorized him to represent him. That's called Carmody weight, proof of authority to represent. And number two, he has not proven that a U.S. attorney in the District of Idaho has jurisdiction outside of Idaho, has jurisdiction over defendants in Boston, in Washington, D.C., in Binghamton. And he says that Glendora's complaint is vague and in many respects unintelligible. And Glendora says, well, hardly is it vague. It is graphically specific. So graphically specific that they run away from it. They don't address one issue in the complaint. It is unintelligible only to the illiterati. Read it yourself, reader. Do not take Grisham's word for it. Again, Grisham has no Carmody weight proof of authority to represent my defendants. He has no authority Well, surely it's easy enough, folks. If you're representing somebody, you just get a letter from them and say, I have appointed Robert C. Grisham to represent me in the lawsuit, Glendora versus Tamon et al. If he has the authority to represent my defendant, surely it is easy enough to present it, so why doesn't he? What's the answer? He doesn't have it. Glendora did not say anything that Grisham said, that she said. Glendora says, how can an Idaho U.S. attorney represent defendants outside his jurisdiction? This is the question that Grisham cannot answer. Glendora is entitled to default judgment against all defendants. Grisham says that the court can take judicial notice regarding Assistant U.S. Attorney Grisham's Idaho State Bar license. Who cares? The Idaho State Bar is nothing but a union. And he doesn't have a license, that's a wrong word. He has a union card. He is not licensed by the state of Idaho or any other state because states do not license lawyers. States license doctors and veterinarians and street vendors, but they do not license lawyers. And Grisham says, the United States Attorney's Office, District of Idaho, is authorized to represent the federal defendants. Now you see how he gets around that? But he doesn't say outside of his district. Sure, the U.S. Attorney is going to represent federal defendants. That's what they're there for. But it doesn't say outside of his jurisdiction of Idaho. And he says that the United States Attorney is authorized to represent the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. Surely they are, but only if the violation occurred in his jurisdiction of Idaho, and I don't think it did. The EPA allowing planes to ruin your blue sky and drop poisons on you came from Washington, where most of our poisons come from. Now we are up to page 29. Do you want to go to the United States Supreme Court, Glendora asks this U.S. Attorney. Well, I'm saving up for it. I don't know how much it costs now to go to the U.S. Supreme Court. It used to be $300. It costs more than $300 to go to the New York Supreme Court. But I'm saving up for it. I will take this case to the United States Supreme Court. The federal defendant, says Grisham, have filed a response to Glendora's motion for default judgment. Well, Glendora says Bodine through Rhode Island intake clerk who lost Glendora's $250 filing fee are in default. The extension that Grisham got from the court is illegal for two reasons. A, he did not ask the plaintiff Glendora first, pursuant to federal rules of civil procedure. It's very plain on that. If the defendant wants an extension of time to answer, then he asks first the plaintiff. Only if the plaintiff says no, does the defendant go to the judge. Well, both the judge and Grisham violated that law. Now, it's illegal for a second reason. Grisham goes to the judge and asks for an extension, and the judge grants it instantly. Where's the due process in there? Where's the due process of law? Did I have a chance to oppose it? So you see, he'll never get anywhere with that. And because it's illegal, therefore, they didn't get an extension of time, therefore, they are in default. Therefore, they owe Glendora $183 million. We are up to page 30, and we're going to take a break, and we're going to rejoice about something even though it's late. Glendora's response does not cite any authority. Okay, I've said this twice, and I guess it's worth saying twice. He says that my response, which is my cross motion, doesn't cite any authority which could provide a basis for denying the federal defendant's motion to dismiss. No, Mr. Grisham, I only cited the Constitution of the United States, the United States Code, the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. You don't call those authorities. You're one of the many people in the courts today who don't call those authorities. Well, let me remind you, sir, they are the authorities. And as long as you violate them, you are going to be sued. So Glendora rests. And why shouldn't she? It's 3 a.m. It was 3 a.m. when I wrote this. Anyway, Glendora rests. And she commends to Logic. Lodge is the United States District Judge in this action. Glendora versus Tuman et al. In the Idaho District Court. And so his name is Edward Lodge. And he has a beautiful signature, which is something for a man in the first place, but it's really something for somebody in the courts. They obscure their signatures the way they obscure their legal arguments. Anyway, Mr. Edward Lodge is the federal judge in this case, and so Glendora commends her case to Logic. You want to see Grisham's signature? No wonder his mind is all mixed up. And his signature tells you that. Look. Okay, we're going to rejoice, and then we're going to do pages 31 to 40 and 41 to 50. And you're going to change channels, and I don't blame you. I would too. Except this is a call. How are you doing? Are you 100% person that you want to be? I want you to be 100% person. And I know you can do it. If you just look in the right places. You're looking in all the wrong places. It's not in the department stores, it's not driving around in the car, it's not in your job, it's not in personal relationships. It's not in any of those places. It's not in the movies, it's not in the television news. Don't watch the television news. It all comes from the international bankers. You're going to hear only what they let you hear. Even the New York Times is sold out to the New York bankers. I mean to the international bankers. No, you're going to find it in one place and one place only, and that's the first thing in the morning when you get up. You spend your own time with God. God has all the answers for you. Maybe you don't want answers. Maybe you just want wealth. Well, God has that for you. Maybe you just want a big house and great big cars. You want servants. Well, God has all that for you. If that's what you want, you'll get it. Believe me. The best things that God has for you is peace, satisfaction, attainment, achievement, goodwill, happiness, joy, health. Have you got it? First thing in the morning, you spend your alone time with God. That's the only place you're going to find it. And then throughout the day, you boost it. You know how you have to boost your car battery? Okay, you have to boost your battery. Throughout the day, every 15 minutes, you have to rejoice about something. What are we going to rejoice about now? The leaves. The leaves on the tree are out, and they are so lush and green and luxuriant. And they're that beautiful tender spring green. They're out, and the good weather is in front of us, and the bad weather is behind us. Okay, we rejoice. Now what are you going to do for pure thoughts? I gave you some pure thoughts from David this morning. What were they? From Psalm 34. Keep your tongue from evil. Keep your lips from speaking deceit. That's good enough. Keep your tongue from evil. Keep your lips from speaking deceit. And that applies to you people out there in Idaho, covering up the evil that these judges and other defendants did. Okay, we're going to take a break. See you soon. So folks, what did you rejoice about during our break? I rejoice about the United States Post Office. It's really a wonderful service. And I got another legal paper done. This one is to the scandalous Second Circuit. And well, I'm going to read it to you. Okay, we are up to page 31. Now Glendora is going through her complaint, and she will list all of the points upon which she won, because nobody, not the defendants themselves, not the phony alleged representatives, ever mentioned, opposed, or defended. And since nobody defended on the merits, Glendora wins on all of them. Defendants would have been much better off going pro se. That's these judges. These judges and these clerks, they would have been much better off, folks, going pro se. Glendora could teach all of them how to be pro se. She learned the truth about lawyers over a decade ago. I've met hundreds of them, and I know the truth about them. In particular, U.S. attorneys and New York State attorney generals. Glendora wins on she tells the truth under penalty of perjury, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And not one of them has said that. And Glendora says this, so help her God. Defendants do not. She wins on all of the 18 U.S. Code, Section 1001, and Rule 11, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. That's all the misrepresentation laws. Call your senators, call your 2 state senators, and call your House representative. And tell them not to vote for the COPE bill, the Cope bill. It will take away public access. And of course, that's what the international bankers want. They don't want the public to have their say. Glendora wins on Rule 8, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, how you file a complaint. Glendora wins on subject matter jurisdiction. On venue, civil rights actions can be brought in any federal court. Defendants are state actors, excepting Savino and Rifkin-Radler. And said defendants are liable under Title 42, Civil Rights, United States Code, Section 1983, and Section 1985, conspiracy. By Rule 12 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, the court must accept Glendora's allegations as true. Did you know that? Any judge has to accept the plaintiff's allegations as true. Now it's up to the plaintiff to prove them. By the United States Constitution, the right to be pro se, she won on that. And this action is a legal proceeding by which Glendora enforces and demands her rights in a court of law, in a court of justice. Now will she win? Is this a court of justice? Pro se civil rights actions cannot be summarily dismissed. She wins on that. RICO, Racketeer Influence Crime Organization, to give the civil court jurisdiction to deal with their criminal acts. She wins on that. And no magistrates. She wins on that. And no clerks. By the Constitution of the United States, Glendora is entitled to an Article III judge. That's the United States District Judge, a Circuit Judge, or a Supreme Court Judge. Omega. Toman's order dismissing Glendora versus Eacock is a nullity. He had 60 days to rule on a motion pursuant to New York civil practice laws and Rule 2219. He took like a year. Eacock did breach a contract, so Glendora wins on that. Eacock must pay Glendora $3,000 plus New York State statutory interest of 9% since January 2004. Savarino, Masterilli, Calighi, and Sadley are accessories before this fact and after the fact. They all violated 18 U.S. Code Section 2 through paragraph 10, listed on pages 15, 16 of the complaint. We went on all of them, because they didn't defend on anything. Glendora wins on all points stated in Attachment 1. We are done the first 6 defendants. Now we go to Alpha, 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 Alpha. Torres, DiMarzio, McCabe, Flanders, and Rhode Island intake clerk owe Glendora damages for carelessly losing her $250 filing fee and not filing her petition pursuant to Public Law 94-426 and to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rules 75 to 79. A clerk is there to file a case. That's the job. Additionally, they injured her with felonies, 18 U.S. Code Section 2 through 78, 19 listed on pages 18 of Glendora's complaint. Beta, beta. McAvoy, his amanuensis, Sotomayor, Raji, and Hall violated Glendora's public access rights, Title 47 U.S. Code Section 521 et sequitur. And 16 New York Code Rules and Regulations, Section 895.4, and many public municipal franchises. Glendora wins on all this, excuse me folks, and on damages for citing unpublished opinions. You're never supposed to cite unpublished opinions, but dumb Calighi doesn't know that. Sotomayor, Raji, and Hall are liable, and they have no defense, to Glendora for violations of Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 2 through 10, on pages 33 of the complaint. These are Glendora's wins over the first 15 defendants, pages 1 and 2 of the caption. Gamma Gamma. Glendora wins on Savino and Rifkin Radler. A, 18 U.S. Code Section 1001, lying, cheating, misrepresenting. B, Rule 11, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, sanctions. C, on the lottery, which is against the law in the state of New York, a game of chance is against the law. And on felonies, 18 U.S. Code, Section 2 through paragraph 10, pages 35, 36, 37, and 38 of Glendora's complaint. And E, she wins on their fraud. This is just too much to swallow, folks. I say this is just too much to swallow. Gargle, gargle, gargle. Delta, Delta. Glendora wins over defendants Flynn and the New York State Public Service Commission. A, 47 U.S. Code Section 521 et sec. 16 New York Code Rules and Regulations, Sections 895.4. New York State Public Service Law, Article 1, Section 229C, limit and prohibit. They win over the New York State Public Service Commission on the lottery. Public access shall be administered in a non-discriminatory manner. And Cablevision collusion, sold out. The New York State Public Service Commission sold out to Cablevision. And double-crossing the public. Their job is to protect public access. And Title 42 U.S. Code Section 1982 and 1985 Civil Rights and Conspiracy. And the RICO, Racketeer Influence Crime Organization, 18 U.S. Code 1964 or 1961 or whatever. Epsilon, Epsilon, and we are on page 35. Glendora has victories over Bennett and Amato. R, that she beat them on first come, first serve, which is a law. Non-discriminatory, administering public access on a non-discriminatory basis, that's a law. She beat them on forbidden cable TV operator editorial control. Cable operator has no say over public access content. And she beat them on limit and prohibit, that's 4 laws. And she beat them on 47 U.S. Code 521 et sequitur. And she beat them on 16 New York Code Rules and Regulations, Section 895.4. And she beat them on New York State Public Service Law, Article 1, 229E, no limit and prohibit. And the rights given by municipal franchises, and she beat them on 18 U.S. Code Section 1001. They lied, covered up, and cheated. And she beat them on the lottery. That's how Glendora beat Amato and Bennett in the federal court. And she has Amato and Bennett in the state court. And she's beat them there. They are in default, and they have to pay $23,000. Zeta, Zeta. Glendora wins against all Jane Does, John Does, and their abettors who rob us of our blue sky, together with Stephen L. Johnson and the Environmental Protection Agency. They did not defend on the merits. She has a right to her azure blue sky. They have to cease their aerosol poisoning. The Environmental Protection Agency loses for lack of defense. EPA now has to tell the truth about the chemtrails and stop them instantly. The chemtrails that come out of the jets. You watch carefully and you'll see a jet go across the sky, and you'll see that jet exuding 2 trails. They are not condensation trails. That's water and it disappears. But these are poison. These are poison trails. They do not disappear. They spread out and they cover the whole sky. And if you didn't see the jet doing it in your area, then if you watch carefully, you'll see them blowing in from the west. And these contain ethylene dibromide, which was a pesticide that the U.S. government banned 10 years ago. They don't use it on animals, now they use it on people. Ada, Ada. By not appearing, by not defending, by default, Glendora has victory over the State of New York, its Supreme Court, its Appellate Division, First Department, and its Court of Appeals in care of Judith K. A. TV cameras must not be prohibited in the people's courts. B. The public has a First Amendment right to know. C. Judges do bad things which must not be covered up. That's 18 U.S. Code, Section 1001. And D. New York State Judiciary Law, Article 13, Paragraph 2, pages 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52 of the complaint. And that the courts are open to the people. Naturally, they're open to the people. Don't ever be afraid to walk into a courtroom and sit down and sue the judge if he says anything about it. Courtrooms belong to the people, and they're open to the public. Federal, municipal, and state. And these Judith K. defendants lose on Title 42 U.S. Code 1983 Civil Rights and 1985 Conspiracy. And they lose on 18 U.S. Code Section 2 through Paragraph 10 on page 50. And they lose on fraud. They took away something of value to us by cheating. Theta Theta. Glendora prevails over Lawrence S. Goldman, Stephen R. Coffey, Colleen C. DePiro, Richard D. Emery, Raul, Lionel Felder. And we are on page 38. Oh, goody goody. Christina Hernandez, Thomas A. Klonik, Daniel F. Luciano, Karen K. Peters, Alan J. Pope, Terry Jane Ruderman, and Jean M. Savayu, and the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct. They did not appear, they did not defend, they are in default. She wins on damages. Their job is to protect us from bad judges. They violated the New York State Constitution, which says so, and Title 42 U.S. Code 1982 Civil Rights and 1985 Conspiracy, and I win on fraud. I mean on their fraud. Pages 59 and 60 of Glendora's complaint. Iota, iota. We continue to ambulate through Glendora's complaint, and on pages 61 we see the following with Glendora over Bodine, who is the Chief Judge of the First Circuit in Boston. And Bodine violated the Judicial Reform Act of September 2002. He codified, it is codified as Title 28 U.S. Code Section 351. Bodine, out of self-interest and disgusting protection of bad judges, of his bad buddy judges, rendered the act totally meaningless. Supporting him and his accessories costs us a huge outlay of precious tax money. Bodine called Glendora incarcerated litigant. Glendora's not incarcerated, and she never has been. But Bodine, the Chief Judge of the First Circuit in Boston, called Glendora incarcerated litigant. And he has not defended himself against that. And he is in default, never having proved he is legally represented and never having returned her 4D waiver that he had been served, and he should, has a civic duty to waive the cost of serving a summons. Glendora wins over Bodine on Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, on fraud, on 42 U.S. Code Section 1983 and 1985, on 28 U.S. Code 351, on recall, racketeer influence crime organization, and condoning Lisi and Allman for violating the U.S. Code, Title 28, Section 636. No magistrate can touch Glendora's case unless she gives her consent in writing. Remember, you have a constitutional right to an Article 3 judge, a U.S. district judge. We're on page 40. Only 10 to go. And Mary M. Lisi and Lincoln D. Allman, I just told you what they did about the magistrate. So Glendora wins on all that. And this is the court, by the way, the Providence Court, that lost the $250 filing fee. And .com is sitting on top of the 1993 Lincoln. Isn't that funny how she likes to sit on that car? Lambda, the Sad Reynolds defendants have chosen capitulation in toto. They have been in default from Christmas week 2005, and while the other defendants have not lied about it or tried to cover up, they instead just returned the papers, and they returned an order by the judge, so that's contempt of court. Alas, Glendora wins against them by Rule 55, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, default judgment, together with Rule 11, sanctions paid into the court. And they lose on non-discriminatory basis, public access, editorial control, public access, limit and prohibit public access, Title 47 U.S. Code 521 et sec, no editorial control by a cable operator, 16 New York Code Rules and Regulations, again 895.4 on first come, first serve, and New York State Public Service Law, Article 1, 229C, no cable operator shall limit or prohibit public access. Who are the Reynolds defendants? James Reynolds, Mid-Hudson Cablevision, Rob Johnson, Lori Culver, Stuart Smith, and Mid-Hudson Media. Christine Savarino and Jennifer Oyala, and Callaghy Sadley, Masterilli, and Savarino, and Bennett and Amato and Ayalo had their chance to appear by Christmas week of 2005. They did not. So they're in default. They've sent a couple of papers into the court, but they're just in default. They have no standing in the court because they missed it. So they defaulted, and Glendora wins her claims over them, and they are liable to her. And further, Glendora wins on ad damnum against Savarino and Oyala, stated in the complaint, pages 73, 74, 75, 76, and new, and Ameliorant Glendora is justified. She won this relief, and I'm going to read it to you again. This is the relief I demanded in a court of justice in Boise, Idaho, in the United States District Court. Wherefore, therefore, and ergo, plaintiff Glendora demands $180 million, $180 million in compensatory and punitive damages, the costs of this action, that this court ordered defendants to cease and desist their lawbreaking as to these matters, together with any further relief, just and proper, dated November 1st, 2005, All Saints Day, State of New York, yours in truth and amor patriae, love of one's country, Glendora. Without prejudice, Uniform Commercial Code, Article 1, 207, 55 TV, 52 TV stations, 520 municipalities, Opus 1301, 36 hours, $55.85. That's not right, Glendora. You didn't include the $250 filing fee, so that's $355. Omnibus 27 lawsuit, estimated internet number is 4,231. And how are you, Martin Luther? I don't quite agree with that hymn because it's not true that the devil cannot be conquered. Page. Glendora wins on the issue that Bodine through Rhode Island intake clerk are not represented by Grisham. She's asked him about 6 times to produce proof from these defendants that he represents them, and Grisham has failed. This is critical. It means that Bodine, to the Rhode Island intake clerk, are in default. And that these defendants consented that Grisham had no jurisdiction in the court in Idaho to represent non-Idaho defendants. Another failure is no good cause shown for his 120-day extension to answer. Grisham withdrew his with distinctions. He called them federal defendants, and then he distinguished them from the other defendants as federal judicial defendants. Are you coming in, .com? I was just about to close the door. And neither responded to the November 26th complaint within 60 days. Grisham does not defend against sanctions. Glendora wins on this. Neither did Toman Julian, and others answered way too late. Say again, Glendora wins on sanctions. Nobody defended against them. That's section 1001 of the Criminal Code, Title 18, and Rule 11 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, sanctions. Grisham loses on frivolous. There is nothing frivolous about judges breaking the law. I don't call that frivolous, do you? About jets robbing us of the blue sky, and about the EPA covering it up, and about violating Title 28 U.S. Code 636 magistrates, about rendering meaningless Title 28 U.S. Code Section 351 judicial misconduct and disability complaints, and about calling Glendora incarcerated inter alia. What is frivolous is Grisham's papers. Even if Grisham were an authorized and legitimate representative, he fails at a meritorious defense. He fails to defend on the merits. All the charges, all the things that these judges did wrong, he never defended them on it. What's that mean? They're indefensible. Grisham excels Cervantes. He fights more windmills than Don Quixote. Grisham reply is a nullity. He had 15 days, not 30. Grisham, by the way, is a U.S. attorney. Illegally defending my judges that I sued and the clerks. And Grisham fails repetitively on serving his papers on Glendora by U.S. mail, regular. He serves them by certified return receipt requested, but the law is, no matter how else you serve a person, you've got to serve them by U.S. regular mail, and you will catch one lawyer after another that way. Dismissal of Glendora's case is via Toman Julian or via Grisham would be mere dictum. And here's this woman who signs a certificate of service, and you don't know who she is. What's her last name? What do you think it is? And she should print her name underneath, and she should tell you who she is and what her authority is. But every time it's just this signature. We are up to page 48, goody goody. We only have 4 more to go. Quayne Smith has no standing. They got here long after the bus left, weeks and weeks. Toman Julian and dishonest and dishonorable, as it says on page 7 of Glendora's complaint. They did not answer it. Pro se civil rights cases cannot be summarily dismissed. They have never answered that. So is Grisham on the same basis, and so is Julian, and Toman, and this is fraud. However, their motion for summary judgment is moot. They are in default. It is Rule 55 versus Rule 56, and Rule 55 prevails. Rule 55 is default judgment, and Rule 56 is summary judgment. All defendants failed their civil duty on saving the cost of serving a summons. Shame, 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 shame. Toman Julian did not include his mandated statement of undisputed facts. If you're going to try to dismiss by summary judgment, then you've got to give a list of undisputed facts so the court can decide. Well, Toman Julian didn't do that, Grisham didn't do that, and Quayne Smith didn't do that, Callaghy didn't do it, Rifkin Radler didn't do it, Savino didn't do it. Toman Julian lacked training on judicial immunity. Congress made no such law. No judge is immune. Hear me well, no judge is immune from a lawsuit. Congress made no such law. Page 49. Toman should not pay Julian for Julian's bad papers. Julian has no personal knowledge. He was not there. Glendora counter moves for summary judgment in her favor. The list of undisputed facts is her complaint. Defendants did not dispute the facts. Reserved. Omicron, Omicron, jot thoughts. Allocution, hortatory. Nobody but Glendora serves papers on the New York State General Attorney General Spitzer, and underling Garrity. The bad things that you people do in court, it is time somebody stopped you. They are supposed to be courts of law, not courts of lawlessness. Glendora has satisfied her burden of proof. She has produced the actual papers in their own hand, and what is your burden? We go to page 50. It is oppressive how many sandbags one has to lift in these courts. Going to court is an adventure, a bold undertaking, of risk where the outcome hangs on unforeseen circumstances. Glendora used to be much more vexed by the courts, but by now she knows it is the international bankers who pull the strings, and she understands much better now. They don't want you to have courts. They don't want you to have rights, because they want to be the dictators. Nobody but Glendora serves the Reynolds defendants. Service is to be on all parties. All you attorneys act as an amphictyony. You know what that is? That's a community, a neighboring community of people to protect a common religious belief. And these people are, it's not a religious belief, but it's like one. Amphictyony. A fortiori, with a greater force and all the more, even more certain and necessary, Glendora unambiguously must be awarded all of the relief listed in her complaint, together with the costs and disbursements and $10,000 sanctions on defendants to the court, give the sanctions to the court, and with all other relief just and proper, dated May 10th, and it was served on May 11th. It's Opus 1388, almost 1,400. It took 25 hours, and it cost $86 to print and post. And here is their prayer. First of all, under penalty of perjury, Glendora affirms, confirms, ratifies, asserts is valid, asserts positively that she has told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help her God. And that she served the within 52 pages upon all defendants, upon Grisham, Julian, and Quayne Smith, and Spitzer Gardy on May the 11th, 2006. Anno Domini, service was by U.S. first class mail. These people have, this is their prayer, these people have an eager and inordinate desire for superiority, power, wealth, and attainment. Help them find the secret where it is. Send them pulses of joy, success, love, peace, and satisfaction. Signed, Glendora. C'est fini. Hi there, everybody. Abide with me. It's going to happen to us someday, folks. Just be joyful that it isn't today. I uncovered some more corruption. No. No. That's good. And this is in New York State District Court in the county of Nassau, Long Island. The only district courts for the state of New York are in Long Island. Nobody else has district courts. Isn't that funny? And I tried to file my lawsuit there, Glendora versus Diane Bennett and Elisa Amato, and it would have only cost $20. And their clerk there, named Robert Shemansky, kept finding excuses not to file that lawsuit, and he kept sending back the complaint. And so then I wrote a memorandum to his boss, Judge Scher, and that I thought my civil rights were being violated, and also public law 94-426, that he had to file my petition. And apparently he intercepted the letter, and it never got to Judge Scher, and I never heard from her. And so I had to file a lawsuit, so I went to the Supreme Court, the County of Columbia, State of New York, and filed my lawsuit there. And instead of costing $20, folks, that cost $315. Well, there was a good thing about that. In the district court in Long Island, you can only recover, the maximum jurisdiction is $5,000. Whereas in the Supreme Court, County of Columbia, I sued for $23,000 because they don't have a limited jurisdiction that I know of. Monetary jurisdiction. And that turned out to be a good thing because both Bennett and Amato and their screwball lawyers, Sadly, Stevens, Burke and Burke, Robert Callaghy, and Walter Swarock, are in default. They had until the complaint and summons with notice was served on them Christmas week, and Kelly Bernas served it in person. This is indisputable service. She served it to him in personam, and her father, James Bernas, witnessed it. Both of them, Alyssa and Diane. And they were supposed to answer in 20 days, that would be the middle of January. Well, they didn't answer until the middle of February, so they're in hopeless default. But I sued Mr. Szymanski, and I sued Judge Scher for violation of civil rights. They are state actors. They do work for our government, the state government. And so Mr. Szymanski tries to pull a fast one, and when he gets a complaint that he sued, this was filed on April the 21st. It took 6 months to write this complaint. Instead of answering the complaint, saying he denied it, he sent my complaint back and said, send $45 if you want to file this complaint. Well, does it say the U.S. District Court up there in Hempstead? I mean, does it say the New York State District Court in Hempstead? Does it? I don't think so. I think it says the United States District Court in the District of the United States Virgin Islands. So I think Mr. Szymanski's pulling another fast one. So I took his complaint and I put it in a great big 9x12 envelope, and I wrote on the outside of it as follows. It is addressed to Szymanski and to Denise L. Scher, the judge. And I say, you have been sued. The complaint Glendora sent you is about you. You have been sued in federal court for violation of Public Law 94-426. Inter alia. Glendora is returning the complaint to you. You are listed in the caption on page 3. You had 30 days to answer. Today is May the 12th, 2006, and you have just 9 days to answer, or judgment by default will be taken against you. Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 55. My case, which you so vexatiously refused to file in your court, I had to file in County Supreme Court, State of New York. Defendants Bennett and Amato are in default at the time of $23,000. Yours in truth and in amor patria, love of one's country, and in amor New Yorki, love of New York. And that has been served. Now, we go on to more corruption. In the Second Circuit. Federal Court, U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit in Manhattan. And I filed a judicial misconduct complaint against the chief judge there named John Walker. John M. Walker Jr., I believe. And guess who he is? Yes, John M. Walker Jr. He's the cousin of George Bush. Received by Glendora on May the 6th, 2006. Memo endorsed by Glendora on May the 12th. And it says in the charge, in re, the charge of judicial misconduct is against John Walker, and it's against the United States District Judge in Manhattan. And it was so long ago, 3 years ago, I've forgotten who that judge is. And I'm not going to spend an hour or two going back into the files to look it up. And they have misused this stamp for years. I have seen them misuse this stamp for years. And they say that complaints having been filed on March the 10th, 2003 and April the 9th, 2003, a month apart, alleging misconduct on the part of a circuit judge, that would be John Walker, and a district judge, whom I've forgotten, of this circuit. And the complaints having been dismissed on January the 18th, 2006. It took them 3 years to do the job, or not do the job, on those complaints. 3 years. And they were dismissed by the acting chief judge of the circuit, who is Guido Galabrese, who is a judge in New Haven, Connecticut. And a petition for review, when Calabrese dismissed my complaint, I filed a petition for review by the Judicial Council of the Second Circuit, which is a hodgepodge of some circuit judges and some district judges, and it changes all the time. A petition for review having been filed timely on March the 19th, 2006, upon consideration thereof by the council, and Glendora wants proof that they considered it. I don't believe it. It was a fix. Ordered that the petition for review is denied for the... Is anybody surprised? Is anybody surprised that if you complain about a judge and it's going to be reviewed by his buddy judges, that it's going to be denied? Are you really surprised? Ordered the petition for review is denied for the reasons stated in the order dated January the 18th, 2006. And I went over that with you with a fine-tooth comb. Everything that Calabresi said, I pointed out every lie, every deceit, every cheat. In fact, I have caught the Second Circuit in over 300 cheats. Do you hear me? 300 cheats? Now, when they say it's an order, do you see this signed by a judge anywhere? Is that a judge? I don't think so. It's an employee. This is not an order. This is a nullity. It is not signed by a judge. It's not an order. It is not signed by a judge. And the clerk is directed to transmit copies of this phony order to the complainant, moi, and to the circuit and district judges. That's Walker and the judge whose name I forgot a long time ago. Well, I say, what do you do when the judge doing the judging? What do you do when the judge doing the judging is as bad as the judge being judged? Folks, you could not pay me to sit in an office all day and violate the Constitution of the United States Code, and the appellate rules of procedure. You could not pay me to do that. They have no problem taking money, your taxpayer money, for that. No problem at all. Just sit there and cheat and lie all day long. This is patent. 18 Criminal Code, U.S. Code, Section 1001. Misrepresentation of material fact. Now you see why they denied the petition? Because they can't face it. They can't take it. They're running away. You couldn't be more cowardly. They are running away. And they look it, and it's indisputable. Now, this, folks, is a monumental victory for Glendora. She has worked years to expose the corruption in the Second Circuit. So, this is a total capitulation that they know they're corrupt, and they have no answer, and they have no defense. But it's a dismal failure for America. It is fraud. And so here is the Judicial Council complaint, dockets number 303-8526 and 03-8531. It took them 3 years to act on it. They were so ashamed of themselves. And they don't call me by the right name. Their caption captures, the name on the caption is Glendora, and they don't call me by the right name. They can't read a caption. I tell them to get it straight. And another thing too, they will not let us handle 2 complaints on the same paper. You have to file different papers, but they do it. They double up, they piggyback. And then they say, pursuant to the rules of the Judicial Council of the Second Circuit, governing complaints against judicial officers under Title 28, U.S. Code, Section 351. You know what that is? It's an obstruction of justice. Everybody in that court down in Manhattan is an obstruction of justice. And that's Title 18 Criminal Code 1505. And it's signed by Roseanne McKechnie, and no, it isn't signed by her. That's bad too. It isn't signed by her, so that's a nullity twice. It's signed by Patricia Chin Allen, who's a flunky who will be gone probably within a year. And what are the names on the Judicial Council? Another cover-up. Another 18 U.S. Code, Section 1001, cover-up, cheat, lie. Well, who are they? In Title 28, U.S. Code 351, is the Judicial Reform Act of 2002. Well, we need another Judicial Reform Act, Congress. We need one that they can't wash out. We need a permanent, indelible, marker type Judicial Reform Act. Not one that's washable. Discussion with these people. I guess it's kind of obvious, isn't it? And I want to just read you fraud. Fraud, and this is exactly what they did. An intentional perversion of the truth for the purpose of inducing another to relinquish some valuable thing belonging to him or her, to surrender a legal right, a false representation of a matter of fact. This is what you did. Calabrese, Walker, McKechnie, and all of you hoods there. This is exactly what you did. Whether by words or by conduct, by false or misleading allegations, or by concealment of that which should have been disclosed. You did this, Second Circuit, which deceives and is intended to deceive another, so that he shall act upon it to his legal injury. That's you, fraud. Second Circuit. I feel so sorry for those people. So I sent a prayer down to them. The prayer is written herein on its musical score, but to you, I can sing it. So I sing this to you, John Walker, in all sincerity, and to you, Calabrese, and to you, the U.S. District Judge I complained about. It's been so long ago I can't remember your name, but I could look it up. And to McKechnie, and to all you clerks who cheat the United States all day long, to you I sing this song. Open their eyes that they may see glimpses of truth thou hast for thee. Place in their hands that wonderful key that will unclasp and set them free. Silently now we wait for thee. Ready our God thy will to see. Open their eyes, illumine them, Spirit divine. Yeah, it was in a Catholic church, and the little boy was in the back of the church, and he was reading the names on the wall, and the priest came by, and the little boy says, "What are all these names?" And the priest said, "Those are the names of our people who died in the service." And the little boy said, "Which service? 8:30, 9:30, 10:30?" What does a report card teach a parent? You don't have to lift weights to raise a dumbbell. You don't what? You don't have to lift weights to raise a dumbbell. Mom told me that? No. The superintendent of schools had a meeting of all of the principals, yeah, and all of the teachers, and he said, "Our student body suffers from 7 dwarf syndrome. Every 7th kid is dopey." That's a good one. You're just saying, I want to get the lid. That's so pretty. That's a pretty, very pretty cake carrier. Now let's
picked
open
that up in Walmart.
You did?
Yeah.
Not at the...
I have a nice glass one, but I didn't want to take
You didn't get it at the side of the road?
No, this one I didn't get at the side of the road.
And what kind of a cake is this?
This is like your cake that I always make for you.
It's a lemon cake.
It's a lemon cake.
Oh, made in a bundt form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like we call it the Google Up. I'll put that on afterwards.
All right, yeah.
Because then it just...
That's good. Oh,
I made this early this morning. I made a bunch of loaf ones about 5 o'clock. But you know, the thing is that I am still on hospital.
Welcome to the ladies' breakfast. This is the ladies' morning out. Right? We're at franchise. No men, right?
Yes, I know.
Oh, they did it so nicely. Coffee and juice are in the middle. Isn't it pretty? This is at the Kinderhook Reformed Church, Dutch Protestant church.
But we didn't have enough lace, and we had to discard so many of the table. I went through them all yesterday. So many had holes in them. Hi. So this is the best we could do. And
Oh, I think it's nice. I'm gonna give
This is my friend Ellie, honey. This is my friend Ellie.
I'm Lori.
and I'm Ellie Kissling.
Hi, I'm Jen.
You're going to be on television.
Now this is a good crowd, folks. We have a lot of people.
I'm just going to test and see if I can. I don't think they'll mind if I try to see if I can get Steve.
Oh no.
Just to see if he's...
Okay,
now there's plenty of room. Look that in here.
Today's vegetarian luncheon is coleslaw with Italian dressing, no mayo, it's an animal product, and a vegetarian hamburger on toast.
Teach us to render to you all that we have and all that we are, that we may praise you, not with our lips only, but with our whole lives, turning the duties, the sorrows, and the joys of all our days into a living sacrifice to you. Through our Savior, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
This is the last legal paper of the week. There were 7 of them this week. U.S. Attorney, Idaho. Brian Julian. A judge hired a lawyer. Elliot Spitzer and Lisa Gardy. Caught lying and cheating. 2 judges, Lisi and Allman in the Providence Federal Court. Violated the U.S. Code, Section 636, 28, Title 28. James Reynolds, Mid-Hudson Cablevision, Rob Johnson, Laurie Pulver, Stuart Smith, and Mid-Hudson Media violate the public access laws and then refuse all legal papers and are in contempt of court. Chief Judge of the First Circuit, Boston, renders meaningless judicial conduct and disability complaints. Defendant Ayala cut a chat with Glendora from 2 hours to a half an hour. Courtesy copy, the United States District Judge before whom this action is in Idaho. Quayne Smith, a liar for hire for Sadly Stevens, Burke and Burke, Robert Callaghy. This is purportedly, I just really don't believe it. Rifkin, Radler, Contino, and Savarino. The clerk of the court, the original goes to the clerk. Defendants Diane Bennett and Alyssa Amato thought it was cute to drop a chat with Glendora from 10 p.m. Fridays, where he'd been for since 1993, to 4 p.m. And I get some cute anymore. Defendants, the state of New York, its Supreme Court, its Appellate Division, and its First Department, and its Court of Appeals in care of Judith Kay, Chief Judge of the state of New York, for not allowing cameras in the courtrooms. In the people's courtrooms, not allowing cameras. That's carrying cover-up way too far. William Savino and Contino. Here's Contino. Contino is a lawyer, Savino's a lawyer too, but Savino's a defendant and Rifkin Radler is a defendant for damaging public access in Kelly Burness versus Cablevision in Long Island, and therefore damaging Glendora's public access rights. Ernest Torres, DiMarzio clerk and McCabe clerk and Flanders clerk and intake clerk who lost $250 filing fee. Defendants Robert M. Callaghy and Sadly Stevens, Burke and Burke, with their ignorant law papers and their lying, caused Glendora a tremendous amount of time and dollars and ergs, and this is damages. Defendants Jane Doe, all Jane Does and all John Does and their abettors who rob us of our blue sky, together with Stephen L. Johnson and the Environmental Protection Agency, with the jet that comes, the jet chemtrails full of poison that come into the sky and then down to you. Sandra Sotomayor and Regina Raji and C.J. Hall, who are Second Circuit judges in Manhattan, said it was okay for McAvoy and Binghamton to deny the public access rights of Bill Houston and therefore of Glendora. And so they are being taken to court for violating public access law. Deborah Eacock, who started a lawsuit, she said she'd be Glendora's signer in Peekskill, and then she breached the contract. And Cecilia Mastrorilli and Christine Savarino, a pair of people who use extortion to chase away Glendora's signers so they don't have cablecast or programs. And this is the judge before whom Glendora took Deborah Eacock, and this judge was improperly influenced and is now in the United States District Court in Idaho. And these people had to have 9 by 12 envelopes because there's so many defendants. This is Goodman, Coffey, DePiro, Emery, Felder, Hernandez, Klonick, Luciano, Peters, Pope, Ruderman, Savagno, and the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct. By the New York State Constitution, you are to be protected from bad judges. It's their job to do it. They fail. So they are being sued. Many times they have been sued. Defendants: Flynn, Weiss, Bennett, Dunleavy, Galvin, Hume, Isabella, Shea, Figliosi, Dawson, and the New York State Public Disservice Commission for violating our rights to public access, the law. Now I will read you the paper. We will read you this great paper. And how are you tonight? This paper was written Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It will be served tomorrow. Glendora plaintiffs, I told you all the defendants versus Stephen Taman, a judge, Deborah Eacock, Christine Savarino, Mastrorilli, et al. But what is this paper? Oh, by the way, take a look at this index number. It costs $250. This is Glendora surreply to Quain, a law firm in Idaho, and Callagee, Robert Callagee, a lawyer in Manhattan, Sadly Stevens, Burke, and Burke, and they are in default. Eacock, Callagee, Sadly, Bennett, Amato, Savarino, Mastrorilli, they did not heed the Ninth Circuit mandate as to Rule 12 to dismiss a complaint equals Rule 56 to move for summary judgment. And that pro se civil rights cases such as this one cannot be summarily dismissed. Whatever they have to say this week should have been said the last week of December 2005. Sanctions on all of them. Grant Glendora default judgment, Rule 55, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, and/or summary judgment, Rule 56, in her favor. Stop this motion practice and get down to justice. This is Omnibus 27. Bringing in the sheets. Isn't it fun? Isn't it fun to spend 28 hours doing legal papers? Now, Alpha, whatever Quain, Smith, and Callaghy said in their paper of May the 5th, 2006, that would be last week, folks, should have been said the last week of December. Callaghy, Sadley, Eacock, Savarino, Masterilli, Oyala were served the complaint Christmas week 2005 with 30 days to answer. They chose not to answer. They chose fugitivism instead. They have no standing left. They are out. They are imposters, intruders, and fakers. They are in default and must take the penalty of pecuniary punishment under the wrath of Rule 55, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, default judgment. All they had to do, folks, was to sign and date the waiver, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 4D, and get 60 days to answer. With the papers, they should have answered the papers in the last week of December, but they answered them in the first week of March and the first week of May. Glendora just gets served. Her. Omnibus final paper by Glendora, Sir reply to Grisham motion to dismiss. And Toman and Julian do not get another reply after Glendora's Sir reply to them. And what Savino, Rifkin, Radler say last week should have been said the last week of December of 2005. All defendants are unambiguously in default, and Glendora is entitled to judgment by default. Sanctions on all the defendants and their alleged representatives of $10,000 pursuant to Rule 11 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure and contempt of court on the James Reynolds defendants. That paper took, what was it, 28 hours and a whole lot more money. And that just went out Thursday. It was served Thursday. And fa-boom, this one comes in the mail. And it could have come in and gone out with the other one. But it added 28 hours work and $34. So I just get that other paper served when this one comes in. Then, this is why Callaghy and Sadley and all the other defendants, Sarrock, why they all got sued for the damages that they caused. Then comes another paper, late paper from Callaghy, who is the great defaulter. And he does it again. And Callaghy had to pay Glendora $5,020 for default judgment in the White Plains City Court. Then he defaulted in the Supreme Court, County of Columbia, State of New York. And this one is at the tune of $23,000. That's Amato and Bennett. Further, he is in default in federal courts all over the country. Whatever Quain, Callaghy, Eacock, Savarino, Sadley, Oyala, Bennett, and Amato write, say, or do is adiaphorus. They have struck out. The game is over, and they have lost. No more motion practice. Get down to justice. Bader. Even if they were not struck out, they cannot waive Rule 12, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, dismiss. They did not comply with this court's notice to pro se litigants of the summary judgment rule requirements. This is mandated by the Ninth Circuit. The federal court in Idaho is in the Ninth Circuit. Defendant is required to file with its motion for summary judgment a statement of undisputed material facts, and they didn't do that. They didn't even address the charges against all of these judges that I sued. Rule 12 will be treated the same in pro se cases, says the Ninth Circuit, as is Rule 56 summary judgment. These people did not read Glendora's scrutiny of this mandate on pages 34, 35, 36 of Glendora's surreply to Taman Julian. That went out 2 weeks ago. Postmarked, April 28th. Glendora incorporates her Taman Julian surreply together with her omnibus final paper surreply that went out 2 nights ago, postmarked May 12th, herein, as if fully stated herein. We're up to page 3. Callaghy is misrepresenting. He has no Carmody weight proof of authority to represent Callaghy, Cecilia Masterilli, Christine Savarino, Diane Bennett, Alyssa Amato, Jennifer Ayalo. He has no Carmody weight proof of authority to represent these people. I think he's faking. And this is sanctionable under Rule 11 of Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. In his paper received on March the 3rd, he did claim to represent ECOC. In this paper received, he did not claim to represent ECOC. In this paper received 511, he gratuitously throws in ECOC. Now this makes ECOC default within default. This is a surreply. There is no reply to a surreply. Do not pull a Taman Julian who did a reply to a surreply. It is time to end this motion practice. It is time to end this rhetoric. It is time to get down to justice. Callaghy, like all of the defendants, like all of their masquerading representatives, with ambience superficial and supercilious, do not address the gravamen. They eschew the merits, and they long desperately for a meritorious defense when there is none. And what comes next? A case not adjudicated on the merits can be brought again. Everything that Glendora wrote in her Greek abecedarian of May the 11th applies to Callaghy and those he claims to represent. Fraud, court's bad name, they give the courts a bad name. The claim against the bond, you go after a judge's bond who took an oath to support the United States Constitution, doesn't, and so the bonding company sees that he's a bad risk and he doesn't bond him anymore. And inter alia, up to page 7, they each individually and collectively have committed fraud. In fraud, they trust. It is pathos. Now here's what fraud is. It's an intentional perversion of truth for the purpose of inducing another to give up something of valuable to him. To surrender a legal right. A fraud is a false representation of a matter of fact, whether by words or by conduct, by false or misleading allegations, or by concealment of that which should have been disclosed. and that which deceives and is meant to deceive another, so that he shall act upon it to his legal injury. Keep that in mind. That might happen to you. As Glendora teaches her TV internet audience, that you admit it, acknowledge it, say you are sorry, say you are ashamed, say you wish you had not done it, say it embarrasses you, say you will not do it again, say you will make good for it, and say you stand here ready to take your punishment and to atone and to restitute. Don't stand up in public and do this bad stuff of running away, making puerile rationalizations. Take it like a grown-up. It is not a new message. It is what John the Baptist did after 40 days, and that's what John the Baptist did. And then after 40 days in the wilderness, that's what Jesus Christ did. He came out and his first message was repent. And all of you did these wrongs to America for pay, like Judas Iscariot, and your Saldama is coming. Callaghy is a defendant. He cannot defend co-defendants. Sadly is a defendant. Sadly cannot defend co-defendants. Glendora planned it that way. So here come poor babies, Savarino through Ayala, Masterilli, Bennett, and Amato, thinking that they are being defended, and they are not. It is fraud against them and against Glendora and against Judge Lodge and against America. In fraud they trust. Big point, like all the other phony amanuenses who have come out of the ground this spring, Callaghy, Quain have no defense on the merits. They deal not with the gravamen. It is all penumbra and no core. And va-boom, Glendora wins on all points that they eschewed. Allocution. Write good papers now, because this case, we're on page 10, may very well be going to the United States Supreme Court. Glendora is saving up for it, and her amici curiae, friends of the court, are helping her. What could happen is that we will lodge briefly here, the name of the judge's lodge. The Ninth Circuit does not know what it is doing, nor has it for a decade, and I've been in the Ninth Circuit for a decade. Of this has Glendora personal knowledge, but Glendora is saving up for the U.S. Supreme Court with the alms of her amici curiae. Defendants, pay not the impostors you have now, get new ones. Glendora drums up business for the unlicensed mob, and defendants, best of all, go pro se. You can do it much better. I'm telling these judges to go pro se, don't hire a lawyer. You can do it much better. Lambda, Glendora's memo endorsed of April the 4th, 06 is incorporated herein and is the truth. And see the next page. That's where I tell them anything that Savino and Rifkin Radler have to say in their late paper of the first week of April should have been said on the last week of December. They had 30 days to answer. That's when they should have defended, not wait until they were in default. 13 page. Glendora has endured Callaghy's frivolous, vexatious, tinny papers for 12 years. He has lost so many cases, one after another. It is hard to believe that Cablevision continues to pay him. If Cablevision does, its chairman, Charles F. Dolan, is in for a non-23A fiduciary irresponsibility action. Glendora has to find out if Callaghy is doing penance and paying for this by himself. As well he should. Glendora is a shareholder. Callaghy does not list all defendants. He does not serve all defendants. He does not serve Spitzer, the Attorney General of the state of New York, and his assistant guardian, nor any of the New York State defendants, like the New York State Public Service Commission and the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct. Glendora just gets her omnibus final paper, reply to Grisham, motion to dismiss, 25 hours and $86. plus 3 hours of videotaping it for her TV stations and the world internet, when lethargic Callaghan, late as always, comes crawling in with another profligacy. He even fails at being alert, on the watch, ready, prompt, and vigilant. But alas, this is going to change, because Glendora is sending him, and Sadly, and Savino, and Masterilli, Bennett, and Amato, and Oyella, and Tailgater Ecock, vigorous thought waves to elevate them to being the 100% people that they really want to be. Amen, so be it, and solemnly ratified. Here is the docket. I brought the docket up to date. And here is a special docket for Plain Smith Callaghan, the paper I'm dealing with now. And look at this. When I made my vegetables today, look what the potatoes came in. Isn't that cute? Idaho potatoes. So I put that in for Judge Lodge and the U.S. Attorney out there in Boise. And here we are, a fortiori. With the greater force and all the more, even more certain and necessary, Glendora is to be granted all of the relief demanded in her complaint, which is $180 million. Her complaint of November the 26th, 2005. She is to be granted Rule 55, default judgment, or in the alternative, Rule 56, summary judgment. Sanctions on all defendants and their representatives, real or fake. The cost of this action, together with all other relief, just and proper. Dated May 14th, that's today. Anno Domini. This is Opus 1390. It took 17 hours, and it's $34, and the internet number, circa 4345-19, edition 19, 4346-20. 20 editions I have to do as soon as I say goodbye to you. Under penalty of perjury and so forth, that's the service. And that Glendora has told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help her God, that the defendants have not. And the closing is, God be with you till we meet again. And no more motion practice. Let's have a moratorium on it. I'll sing that song to you. I can't sing it to them. God be with you till we meet again. Keep His loving arms around you. Let love's banner float something o'er you. God be with you till we meet again. Here's some jokes. The reporter asked the teacher, what are you 3 things you like best about being a teacher? And she says, motivating young people, shaping the next generation, and opening up young minds. And the reporter said to the next teacher, what 3 things do you like best about being a teacher? And she said, June, July, and August. Write an essay, the children were told, about the lives of children in colonial times. And the girl wrote, life for children in the colonial times was hard. They had to play their video games by candlelight. And what cultural contribution did the Phoenicians make? And the little girl said, Phoenician blinds. Do you know how you make a Venetian blind? You stick your finger in his eye. What is an indentured servant? The teacher asked. Said the boy, an indentured servant is a slave with false teeth. And the boy wrote on his essay that we breathe oxygen in the daytime and we breathe nitrogen in the nighttime. The teacher was trying to explain to the children the duties and responsibilities of the Vice President of the United States. Why, children, what would happen if the President of the United States should die this very minute? Who would get the job? And the little girl said, a Republican undertaker. Why did the lady become a kindergarten teacher? She likes to make little things count. The superintendent of school gathered all of his school principals and all of his teachers and intoned, "Our student body suffers from 7 dwarf syndrome. Every 7th kid is dopey." Bill said the teachers respected me when I was in school, and his mother says they had to. You were older. Did you know that old principals never die? They just lose their faculties? Hector says, "I don't want to go to school today." His mother, he was telling his mother this. He says, "The teachers don't like me. The superintendent doesn't like me. The kids don't like me. Even the custodians got it in for me." And his mother says, "You have to go to school today. You are well and healthy. And you have a lot to contribute. And besides, you are 46 years old and the principal." What does a report card teach a parent? You don't have to lift weights to raise a dumbbell. How are you folks doing? Are you your 100% selves? You can be your 100% selves. I don't have any happy books to give you, my dears. They are all given out. Unless we can find somebody rich. You think we can find somebody rich to print the 5,000 happy books for us? Now this happy book on page 32, which is a pretty beige page, they're all different colors, the pages on the happy book. Colors are so important. It says to you, wouldn't you like to be as great as you possibly can be? Wouldn't you, folks? Think of how great you can be. Wouldn't you like to reach your full potential instead of limping around here at 10%? Just keep making your retreat each day and listening to God, and you will be. Just keep going and spending your time alone with God the first thing every morning. This promises that you will be. It is guaranteed. And out of the retreat, when you're moving around, using the body more than the mind, count pure thoughts. Are you up to 75 pure thoughts an hour? 5 hours a day? Easily. Easily. And every 15 minutes rejoice about something. Well, this ends it for 3 weeks. We've got 20 half-hour programs to put the titles on. Well, that will take 20 hours. And usually when I start it, I stay up all night with it. Well, your hymn. Blessed assurance, all is at rest. I am my Savior, are happy and blessed. Waiting and watching, looking above, filled with His goodness, lost in His love. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long. This is my story, this is my song, praising my Savior all the day long.